perfect. She's going to need this. The words slid from my son-in-law's mouth as he held up a drab, gray housekeeping uniform with a starched white apron, a wedding gift his mother had just presented to my daughter, Clara. I saw the tears welling up in my girl's eyes. I saw her hands tremble as she took the garment, and in that instant, something inside me, something that had been dormant for decades, woke up. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 62, and what happened on that night changed our lives forever. But before I go on, please check if you're subscribed to our channel and drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel. To understand what I did that night, I have to go back to the beginning. I need to explain how my daughter met that man and how I realized, far too late, what kind of family she was about to join. Clara met Julian 2.5 years ago. It was a Saturday morning in March. I was watering the plants on my balcony when she burst in with a sparkle in her eyes I hadn't seen since she was a teenager. "Mom, I met someone special." That simple sentence would change our lives irrevocably. Julian came from a traditional, old money family from Boston's Beacon Hill. His mother, Mrs. Beatrice DeWitt, was known for her haughty demeanor and her sharp, acidic opinions about anyone not belonging to her elite social circle. I should have paid more attention to the warning signs from our very first meeting. It was at an expensive restaurant in the historic downtown area. Beatrice arrived 40 minutes late without so much as a genuine apology. She looked me up and down, her eyes assessing my clothes, my hair, even the simple handbag I was carrying. I let it slide that day. I told myself she was just nervous, the way any mother might be when meeting her son's future mother-in-law. But she never called me by my name again. From that day forward, I was simply Clara's mother, as if I had no identity of my own, as if my 62 years of life meant nothing more than having given birth to the girl her son had chosen. It was as if my existence only had value in relation to my daughter, not for who I was as a person. Clara was so deeply in love she couldn't see past Julian's eyes. I tried to warn her subtly, not wanting to be the nagging mother no one listens to. "Honey, did you notice the way Mrs. DeWitt talked about your job?" Clara would just smile and say it was just her way, that deep down she was a good person, that I just needed to get to know her better. Julian was always polite to me, always gentle with his words, but there was something in the way he would look at his mother when she made her venomous comments, a faint, complicit smile that sent a chill down my spine. It was as if they were sharing a private joke at the expense of those around them. I knew that look. I had seen it before, on other men, on those who learn from a young age that some people are worth more than others. The months passed, and the signs became more glaring. One day, about 6 months before the wedding, Clara came home quieter than usual. She sat down in the kitchen, our sanctuary where we always solved life's problems, and just stirred her coffee without drinking it. Her eyes were distant, as if she were a million miles away. Beatrice said, "I need to learn to cook better," she murmured, not looking at me. She said her family has a certain standard for meals, that the recipes I learned from you are too simple, too common. My blood ran cold. It felt like a slap in the face. Those recipes were from my grandmother, from my mother, passed down through generations. They were made with love. But to Beatrice DeWitt, they weren't good enough. And Julian? What did he say about that? Clara took a long time to answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was almost a whisper. He laughed. He said his mom was right, that I needed to try harder if I wanted to be a real part of the family. He said when we're married, we'll be hosting his friends for dinner, and I need to be up to the task. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at my bedroom ceiling, replaying all the times in my life I had let malicious comments slide just to keep the peace. I thought about my own mother, who had always taught me to bow my head and accept things, not to make a fuss, to maintain appearances. And I swore right there, in the darkness, that my daughter would not inherit my silence. But Clara was determined to marry him. She loved that man, or at least she loved the idea of him. She saw him as her Prince Charming, the man who would whisk her away from our simple life into a better world. I saw a man being molded by his mother to be exactly what she wanted, so I started to make plans, secret plans that no one could have imagined. For months, I worked double shifts. I took every extra hour I could get at the hospital where I've been a nurse for 30 years. I worked holidays, weekends, and overnight shifts. My colleagues thought I was in debt. I let them believe it. It was better than anyone knowing the truth. I sold the jewelry my grandmother had left me, the pieces I had been saving for an emergency, a sapphire pendant, gold filigree earrings, a ring with a small diamond chip. Each piece held a story, a memory. But my daughter's security was worth more than any object. I also sold the old car I had worked so hard to buy. That car represented years of savings, of sacrifice. But I didn't hesitate. Every penny was saved for a single purpose. Nobody knew. Not Clara, not my friends, no one. I had a plan, and I needed to execute it in complete silence. I started eating less, buying clothes from thrift stores, cutting out every superfluous expense. Clara noticed I was thinner, more tired. But when she asked, I just said work had been demanding. I found a discreet lawyer, recommended by a colleague. I explained what I wanted to do, and he looked at me with a mixture of surprise and admiration. He was a man in his 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes. He listened to my entire story without interrupting. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Vance? It's a significant decision, a decision that could cause problems in your daughter's marriage." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied. "And if it causes problems, it's because the marriage was already broken from the start." For months, I saved every cent. I cut every non-essential expense. I stopped going to the hair salon, buying new clothes, or going out to dinner with friends. My younger sister, Susan, commented that I seemed different. "Eleanor, are you okay? You look so thin, so tired." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just a bit busy at work." Susan didn't press the issue. She had her own problems. She was getting divorced after 15 years of miserable marriage. Her husband got everything: the house, the car, the savings. Everything was in his name. Susan was left with nothing. She had to move back in with our mother, who was still alive at the time, at 43 years old, without a penny to her name, without any options. I visited Susan every week. I saw the humiliation in her eyes. I saw how ashamed she felt having to depend on our mother again. "You know the worst part," she told me once? "It's not that he cheated. It's not that he left me. It's realizing that I spent 15 years building a life that was never mine. It was all his. I was just a guest." Those words stayed with me. They echoed in my head every night before I fell asleep. I was not going to let Clara go through the same thing. I would not let my daughter be trapped, dependent, and without options. Finally, 3 months before the wedding, I had saved enough money. I started looking at apartments with a real estate agent. I wanted something simple but dignified, a place where my daughter could feel safe, where she would have something that was solely hers, something no one could ever take away from her. We visited several properties. Some were too small. Others were in neighborhoods I didn't like. A few were in terrible condition, needing expensive renovations. But the 7th apartment was perfect. It was in an old but well-maintained building in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood in Jamaica Plain. It had 2 bedrooms, a large living room with a balcony, a spacious kitchen, and plenty of natural light. The windows overlooked a park with ancient trees. As soon as I walked in, I knew. I felt a sense of peace, a feeling that the place had good energy. "This is it," I told the agent. He was surprised. "Don't you want to see the rest? We still have 3 more on the list. No need. This is the one." I signed all the papers that same week. The deed was drawn up in Clara's name only. Not a single line included Julian or any mention of marital assets. The lawyer assured me everything was protected by a special clause, making it impossible to be contested even after the wedding. That apartment would be hers, and only hers, no matter what happened. Mrs. Vance, the lawyer said when we finalized everything, what you're doing is very rare and very wise. I wish more mothers thought like you. I kept the documents in a polished cherry wood box I bought especially for the occasion. I chose cherry wood because Clara always loved the warmth of it. And then I waited. I waited for the wedding day, for the right moment to reveal my gift. I knew there would be consequences. I knew Beatrice would not take this well. But I didn't care. My daughter's security was worth any war I had to fight. The wedding preparations were torture. Beatrice took complete control of everything. Clara barely had a say in any of the decisions. The mother-in-law chose the venue, the flowers, the menu, and even had to approve the wedding dress. That neckline is too daring, she'd say. That style isn't suitable for a bride from a traditional family. Clara would come home in tears almost every week. Mom, it doesn't even feel like my wedding. It's the wedding Beatrice wants. I would console her, dry her tears, but deep down I was furious. Furious with Julian for not defending his fiancée. Furious with that controlling woman. Furious with myself for not being able to do more. But I had my plan, and I clung to it like a castaway clinging to a piece of driftwood in the middle of the ocean. A month before the wedding, Beatrice hosted a dinner at her house for the two families to get better acquainted. The house was enormous, ostentatious, filled with expensive objects but devoid of any warmth. Everything was for show, to display status. Throughout dinner, Beatrice made sure to highlight the differences between our families. We've always valued education, she said, even though Clara had graduated from college with better grades than Julian. We've always maintained a certain standard of living, she continued, looking around her own home as if it were a palace. My sister Susan, who had come with me, squeezed my hand under the table. She knew I was holding back from saying something, but I remained silent. It wasn't time to show my cards yet. Julian, sitting next to Clara, agreed with everything his mother said. It was like watching a well-trained puppy offering its paw. At the end of the dinner, as we were leaving, Julian's father, Mr. Arthur DeWitt, pulled me aside. He was a tall, elegant man who rarely smiled. "Mrs. Vance, please excuse my wife. She can be excessive at times." Those were the only words he said, but they carried so much weight. There was sadness, regret, and weariness in them. I realized in that moment that he was also a prisoner of that woman, that he too had bowed his head years ago and was now living with the consequences. "Thank you," was all I could manage to reply. He nodded and went back inside, like a man returning to his cell. The wedding day arrived like a forecasted storm. The hall was decorated with white and gold flowers, all paid for by Julian's family, of course. Beatrice made sure every guest knew it. We spared no expense for our son, I heard her say at least 5 times during the reception, as if love could be measured in money spent. Clara was beautiful in the lace dress I had helped her choose. It was the one detail of the wedding she had managed to decide on her own. The dress was simple yet elegant, with lace sleeves and a short train. She was smiling, but I knew that smile. It was the smile of someone trying to convince herself she's happy, that she made the right choice. I saw that same smile on my sister Susan's face years ago, the day she married the man who would spend the next 15 years treating her like a servant. I saw that smile in the mirror when I was younger, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. It's a smile women learn to perfect very early on. The ceremony was lovely. I cried as all mothers do when they see their daughter get married. But my tears carried more than just emotion. They carried fear. Fear of what was to come. Fear that my daughter was making the biggest mistake of her life. Fear that my gift wouldn't be enough to protect her. After the ceremony came the reception, the endless toasts, the fake smiles, the looks of superiority from the DeWitt family and their wealthy friends. I overheard comments about our side of the family. "They're simple people," they'd whisper, "but not quietly enough." At least the girl is pretty and well-mannered, as if Clara were a commodity being evaluated, as if she should be grateful for having been chosen by someone from the DeWitt family. My sister Susan sat beside me for most of the party. "You're very quiet," she commented. "You're up to something." Me. I feigned innocence. "Eleanor, I've known you for 60 years. I know when you're planning something. What are you going to do?" "You'll see," I replied simply. Then came the time for the gifts. The newlyweds were seated at a decorated table, opening the envelopes and boxes from the guests. So far, everything had been predictable. Money, housewares, some expensive appliances. Julian opened each gift with the air of someone who deserves everything he's receiving. Clara thanked everyone politely, but without much enthusiasm. But then Beatrice stood up. She was holding a box wrapped in gold paper, walking towards the couple with that smile I had learned to fear. It was a smile that didn't reach her eyes, a smile full of venom disguised as honey. I felt my heart race. Something bad was about to happen. "My dear Clara," she said loudly so everyone could hear, "I want to give you something very special, something practical for your new life." She opened the box slowly, dramatizing every movement. And from inside, she pulled out a housekeeping uniform, a drab gray dress with an immaculate white apron. Clara's name was embroidered on the chest pocket in neat lettering. The silence that fell over the room was deafening. People stopped talking, stopped eating, all staring at the surreal scene. "This way, you'll always be presentable when you're taking care of the house," Beatrice continued with a poisonous smile. "A wife needs to know her place. She needs to understand that her role is to care for the home, for her husband, to keep everything in order, like a good maid does." A few of her friends snickered, hiding their mouths with napkins. Others just watched with the expression of someone witnessing a car crash, unable to look away. There was shame in the air, but there was also malice. There were people there who were enjoying this, who found it amusing to see someone being publicly humiliated. Clara took the uniform with trembling hands. She tried to smile, to keep her composure, not to make a scene. I saw the tears forming in her eyes. I saw the humiliation wash over my daughter's face. I saw 27 years of her life being reduced to a maid's uniform. And then Julian did the unthinkable. He took the uniform from Clara's hands. He held it up for everyone to see. He looked at his mother with approval, then at my daughter and said, "Perfect. She's going to need this. Thank you, Mother." Those words echoed through the hall like a gunshot. I saw my daughter go pale. I saw her chin tremble as she tried to hold back the sobs. I saw all the hope drain from the face of that 27-year-old girl who still believed in fairy tales. I saw the exact moment her heart broke, and something inside me exploded. All the rage I had suppressed for months, all the humiliation I had swallowed, all the injustice I had witnessed, it all came surging to the surface at once. But I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. Because I had something much better than screams. I had a plan. I rose from my chair slowly. My legs were shaking, but my resolve was made of iron. I felt the weight of the polished cherry wood box inside my handbag. That little box was my secret weapon. It was months of work, of sacrifice, of silent planning, finally coming to light. I walked to the head table as everyone watched me. The hall was in absolute silence. Even the music had stopped. The DJ had paused the song mid-beat. All eyes were on me. "What an interesting gift, Beatrice," I said, my voice firm and clear. "Very creative of you. It really shows how much you think of Clara." The sarcasm was thick, but I kept my tone polite. "Now, allow me to give my gift to my daughter." I took the cherry wood box from my handbag. It was small, elegant, nothing ostentatious, nothing like the expensive gifts that had been given so far. Some guests glanced at each other, probably thinking it was a cheap piece of jewelry or something similar. Little did they know, Clara's hands were shaking as she took the box. She looked at me with eyes full of confusion and pain, not understanding what was happening, why I had stood up like that, why all the drama. "Open it, my love," I whispered, but loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Open it and read it out loud." She opened the box slowly, as if afraid of what she would find inside. Inside were 2 carefully folded documents and a small golden key. Clara took them with trembling hands and began to read silently. I saw her eyes scan the lines once, twice, 3 times. I saw the exact moment she understood what she was looking at. I saw when confusion gave way to surprise, and surprise gave way to something that looked like hope. "Mom," she whispered, "what is this? This can't be real." "Read it out loud, darling. I want everyone to hear. I want every person in this room to know exactly what you're receiving." Clara swallowed hard. Her hands still trembled, but there was something new in her face, a spark that wasn't there before. In a choked voice that grew steadily firmer, she began to read. "Deed of property. Apartment located at 243 Palmer Street, Unit 302. Owner, Clara Vance. Solely Clara Vance." The silence in the hall deepened, if that was even possible. It was as if someone had sucked all the air out of the room. Beatrice had completely lost her composure. Her face, always so carefully made up, was as white as a sheet. Her mouth hung open in shock. Julian was no longer smiling. He was staring at the documents as if they were a venomous snake about to strike. "What does this mean?" Julian demanded, his voice strained and louder than normal. "Is this some kind of joke?" "It means," I replied, looking directly into his eyes without blinking, "that my daughter has a roof over her head, a 2-bedroom apartment with a living room, kitchen, and full bath. An apartment that is hers, and only hers. No one else has any claim to it." Clara took the second document, still in a state of shock. "And this, Mom, what's this?" "Read it," I encouraged her. She unfolded the second paper and read, this time with more conviction. "Exclusive property clause. This property belongs exclusively to the title holder, Clara Vance, and is considered separate, non-communicable property. Under the state's marital property laws, in the event of a dissolution of the marital partnership for any reason, this asset will remain the exclusive property of the title holder with no right to any claim by the spouse." The words were technical, legal, but the meaning was crystal clear. That apartment was hers, only hers. Julian had no, and would never have, any rights to it. Whether their marriage was happy or not, whether it lasted a lifetime or just a few months, that place would always be her refuge. "It's your sanctuary, my love," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Your security, your way out in case you ever need it. It's the guarantee that you will always have a home that no one can take away from you. No one." I looked directly at Julian when I said the last word. He got the message. Beatrice was the first to find her voice. "This is an insult," she shrieked, forgetting all about the appearances she valued so much. "Are you implying my son won't take care of his wife? What kind of message are you sending?" "I'm not implying anything," I answered calmly, keeping my voice controlled. "I wouldn't let her make me lose my composure. I'm just ensuring my daughter has options, that she never has to be completely dependent on anyone for a place to live." "Options?" Beatrice practically spat the word. "She's getting married. She doesn't need options. She needs to trust her husband." "Trust and security are not mutually exclusive," I countered. "A woman can trust her husband and still have something that is just hers. In fact, I think it's healthy. I think every woman should have that." Julian shot up from his chair. His face was red with rage, the veins in his neck bulging. "This is ridiculous. Clara doesn't need options. She has me. I will take care of her. She doesn't need some secret apartment like an escape route." "And what if one day you aren't enough?" I asked, holding his gaze. "What if one day she needs to leave? What if one day she decides she doesn't want to wear that uniform your mother so generously provided? Where does she go? Does she have to depend on your goodwill for a place to sleep? The comparison to the uniform was intentional. I saw a few people in the room nod discreetly. I saw others whispering among themselves. The tide was turning. People started murmuring. Some nodded in quiet approval. Others looked scandalized. But everyone was paying attention. Everyone had an opinion on what was happening. Julian's aunt, a white-haired lady who had always been kind to me in our few encounters, approached our table. Aunt Aurora was Arthur's sister. "Eleanor," she said in a low voice, but not so low that others couldn't hear, "you are a very wise, very brave woman. I wish someone had done this for me when I got married." She looked at Beatrice with an expression that mixed pity and disapproval. "Beatrice, you went too far this time. That uniform was cruel and unnecessary. This girl is going to be your daughter-in-law. You might try treating her with a shred of respect." Beatrice let out a choked gasp. But before she could respond, her husband, Arthur, did something astonishing. He rose from his chair, a slow, heavy movement, as if he carried the weight of years of silence. He approached the head table with measured steps. Everyone watched him. Beatrice, too. She looked nervous, unsure of what her husband was about to say. He never contradicted her in public. He never confronted her. He was always the silent, absent husband, agreeing to everything. But in that moment, something had changed. He looked at me, at Clara, at the document still in her trembling hands. Then he looked at his wife and his son. "Beatrice," he said heavily, his voice weary, "I think you overdid it with that gift." The room fell even quieter, if that were possible. Beatrice was dumbfounded. "How dare you contradict me in front of everyone, in front of your family, our friends?" "I dare because it's high time someone told you that you've crossed the line," he replied, his voice rising slightly. "That uniform was humiliating. It was cruel. And you know it. You knew exactly what you were doing." Then he turned to me. "Mrs. Vance, I think you did the right thing, the absolute right thing. I wish I'd had the courage to do something like this for my own eldest daughter when she got married. Perhaps she wouldn't be in an unhappy marriage today." His words fell like bombs in the room. He had just publicly admitted that his daughter was unhappy in her marriage, that he knew it and regretted doing nothing. The party never recovered from that moment. The music started again, but no one danced. The crowd split into factions. Some came to congratulate us, supporting what I had done. Others gathered around Beatrice, forming a protective circle, murmuring words of comfort as if she were the victim. Clara hugged me so tight I thought she would break my ribs. Her arms wrapped around me, her body shaking with sobs. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered in my ear. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Thank you for giving me this." "You will never have to wear that uniform," I whispered back. "Never. You have your own roof now, your own life. No one can take that from you." Julian was barely looking at Clara. He had retreated to a corner of the room with his mother, the two of them conversing in low tones but with sharp gestures. Beatrice was gesticulating frantically, her face still flushed. Julian just nodded along, agreeing with everything she said. It was like watching a ventriloquist and his dummy. My sister Susan came to me with tears in her eyes. "Eleanor, you're incredible. I so wish someone had done that for me, that our mother had done that for me." She hugged Clara. "Your mother loves you so much, so very much. Never forget what she did today, never." The party continued, but the atmosphere was heavy, tense. Some guests began to leave early. Others stayed but talked in separate groups. Julian's family on one side, our family on the other, like two armies on opposing battlefields. When it was time for the cake, Clara and Julian made the cut together, but they barely looked at each other. They smiled for the photos, but they were empty, fake smiles that didn't reach their eyes. That night, when the party finally ended around midnight, Clara and Julian left for their honeymoon, an all-inclusive resort on the beach, all paid for by his family, of course. Another way to maintain control, to keep Clara indebted to them. But before getting into the car, my daughter hugged me again. "Mom, how did you know? How did you know I would need this?" I held her face in my hands, because I know men like him, and I know women like her, and I know how this story usually ends. I told her about my sister Susan with details I had never shared before, about how she lost everything when she divorced after 15 years of marriage, about how she had to move back home with our parents at 43, without a cent, without options, without dignity, about how she was still trying to rebuild her life at 48. I watched my sister wither away, I told Clara, tears streaming down my face. I saw her lose herself because she had nothing that was just hers. I saw her have to swallow humiliations because she had nowhere else to go. I will not let that happen to you, ever. Julian honked the horn impatiently. He was irritated, eager to leave. Clara got in the car, and they drove off toward the airport. I stood there at the entrance of the hall until the car's taillights completely disappeared into the night. The hall was almost empty, just a few staff members clearing glasses and plates. I went home alone in a taxi that night. My small apartment felt even smaller, emptier. The walls were covered with photos of Clara. A smiling baby in my arms, a little girl in a school uniform on her first day of school, an awkward teenager with braces, a college graduate in a cap and gown, and now a married woman in a photo I had taken before the ceremony. I sat on the sofa with a cup of chamomile tea. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, about Julian's face when he saw the documents, about Beatrice's venomous words, about my daughter's tight hug, about the unexpected support from Arthur. Had I done the right thing? Had I helped? Or just made things worse? At 3 a.m, my phone rang. It was Clara. My heart leaped. "Honey, did you make it to the hotel?" Silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, irregular and choppy. "Clara? Is everything okay? Julian hasn't spoken to me since we left the reception." Her voice came out in a whisper laden with pain. In the car to the airport, total silence. On the plane, he put on headphones and pretended I didn't exist. Now we're in the hotel room and he's in the shower. He hasn't said a single word to me. I felt my heart clench. "And you? How are you feeling?" "Confused? I should be happy. It's my honeymoon. This should be the happiest time of my life, but he's punishing me with silence just because you gave me a gift." I took a deep breath before speaking. I needed to choose my words carefully. I needed to make her understand without sounding like the meddling mother-in-law I probably appeared to be to half the people at that hall. "My love, listen to me very carefully. If a man punishes you with silence simply because you gained something that protects you, that man doesn't love you. He wants to control you, and those are two very different things." I heard her crying on the other end, muffled sobs as if she were trying not to make noise. "Mom, we just got married. I promised to love him forever, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse." "I know. And maybe tomorrow he'll wake up different. Maybe he'll understand. Maybe he'll realize what I did wasn't against him. It was for you. But if he doesn't, if he continues to treat you badly because you have something that's yours, then you'll know exactly who he really is." We talked for a few more minutes. I could hear the shower turning off in the background. "He's getting out," Clara said hurriedly. "I have to go. Call me tomorrow. Or today. It doesn't matter what time." "Okay? Okay, Mom, I love you. I love you too, my daughter. More than anything in this world." We hung up. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, imagining my daughter in that hotel room, next to a man who was punishing her instead of celebrating her. Imagining what Beatrice was saying to him, what kind of poison she was putting in his head. The following days were agonizing. Clara called me every day, but the calls were short and tense. I could tell from her voice that something was very wrong. "How are things?" I'd ask each time, trying to sound casual but dying of worry inside. "Fine, Mom. Everything's fine." But her tone didn't convince me. It was a tired, defeated, lifeless voice. "Are you enjoying the beach? Going on any excursions?" Yes, yes, it's beautiful here. But there was an emptiness in her words, as if she were reading from a script, saying what she thought I wanted to hear. On the 5th day of the honeymoon, she called me, crying hysterically. It was mid-afternoon. I was on my lunch break at work. When I saw her name on my phone screen, I knew something was wrong. Mom, I need to tell you something. I have to vent to someone or I'm going to go crazy. Tell me, honey. You can talk about anything. Julian and I had a terrible fight last night, the worst fight of our lives. She could barely speak through the sobs. He said the gift you gave me was manipulative, that you've been turning me against him from the beginning, that no real wife needs to have property in her own name because a real wife trusts her husband completely. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I felt rage rise like hot lava inside me. And what did you say to him? I told him that wasn't true, that you were just protecting me, that it had nothing to do with not trusting him. And then he said something that chilled me to the bone. She paused, her voice choked. What did he say? He said that if I don't sell the apartment when we get back and put the money in a joint account with him, it means I don't trust him. And if I don't trust him, there's no point in being married. He'll file for divorce if I don't do it. My blood boiled. Clara, listen to me carefully. What Julian is doing has a name. It's called emotional manipulation. It's called control. It's called psychological abuse. He's making you feel guilty for something that isn't your fault. He's punishing you for having something that is solely yours. But Mom, maybe he's right. Maybe I should trust him more. After all, we just got married. We promised to build a life together. Trusting someone doesn't mean handing over everything you have, I replied firmly. Trust doesn't mean putting yourself in a position of complete vulnerability. You can trust him and still have something that's just yours. One doesn't exclude the other. In fact, if he truly loved you, he would be happy that you have that security. She cried for a long time on that call. She cried so much I thought she'd run out of tears. When we hung up, I sat in the hospital cafeteria, staring at the lunch I hadn't even touched. I had no appetite. I thought about calling Julian, about telling him exactly what I thought of him, about screaming at him that my daughter was not his property. But I didn't, because Clara needed to learn to stand up for herself. I could give her the tools, and I had, in the form of that apartment. But she needed to learn how to use them. She needed to find her own voice, and I couldn't do that for her no matter how much I wanted to. Clara and Julian returned from their honeymoon the following Sunday. A week that should have been magical had turned into a nightmare. I went to pick them up at the airport along with Julian's parents, in a tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Beatrice didn't even look at me. She acted as if I were invisible. Arthur, on the other hand, greeted me warmly with a tight hug. "How are you, Eleanor?" Worried, I answered honestly. I saw no point in lying to him. "Me too," he whispered in my ear as he hugged me. "Very worried." When Clara and Julian came out of the arrivals area, I noticed immediately that something had changed irreversibly. They were walking separately at least 6 feet apart. He was in front, pulling his suitcase with unnecessary force. She was behind, dragging her own suitcase, her body hunched over as if carrying an invisible weight on her back. Clara hugged me tightly when she saw me. She was visibly thinner, as if she'd lost 10 pounds in a week. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes that her makeup couldn't fully conceal. Her eyes were red from crying. "Honey, are you okay? Did you eat well this week?" "Yes, Mom," she lied, not meeting my eyes. Julian didn't greet me. He didn't look at me. He acted as if I were invisible too. He went straight to his parents' car without a word. In the parking garage, Beatrice approached them with a fake smile plastered on her face. "Children, come over for dinner tonight. We need to have a real talk about your plans now, about where you're going to live, how you'll organize your finances, those important things." Julian nodded immediately, as he always did with everything his mother said. "Yes, Mom, we'll be there." It was like watching an obedient dog responding to commands. But Clara, to my surprise and pride, said something different. "No, thank you, Beatrice. I'm very tired from the trip. I want to go home and rest. To my home." The emphasis she put on the word "my" did not go unnoticed. "Your home?" Beatrice asked, her voice pure venom. "You mean the apartment your mother bought to control you? To destroy your marriage before it even began?" And then Clara did something I will never forget for the rest of my life. She stood up straight, as if an invisible force had straightened her spine. She lifted her chin with dignity. She looked her mother-in-law directly in the eyes without blinking and said in a firm voice, "I'm talking about my home, the home that's in my name, the home where my husband and I are going to live. And if he has a problem with that, then we have much bigger problems than deciding where to have dinner tonight." The silence that followed was absolute and heavy. Julian stared at her with wide eyes, as if he were seeing a stranger instead of his wife. Beatrice turned purple with rage, the veins in her neck bulging. Arthur smiled discreetly, a quick smile that vanished before anyone else noticed, and I felt like I could breathe for the first time in days. My daughter had found her voice. We went straight to the apartment. Julian drove in sepulchral silence, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. I followed in a taxi because I wanted to see the apartment to make sure everything was in order. When we arrived, the building was exactly as I had left it on my last visit 2 weeks prior. I had even put some flowers on the balcony. Clara got out of the car slowly and stood in front of the gate for a long moment. She looked at the 5-story building, the trees on the street, the park across the way. "It's beautiful, Mom," she whispered with tears in her eyes. "It's really beautiful. And it's mine." We walked up the 3 flights of stairs. The elevator was under maintenance. I opened the apartment door with the key I had kept. The place was exactly as I had left it. Empty of furniture, but clean, smelling of the lavender air freshener I'd placed. The windows were open, letting in abundant, natural light. "I thought you could decorate it your own way," I explained as Clara walked through each room. "Choose your own furniture, your own colors, your own curtains. Make this place truly yours, a reflection of who you are." She walked through each room with reverence, as if in a sacred temple. She touched the walls with her fingertips. She looked out the windows, imagining the view she'd have every morning. She turned on the faucets in the bathroom to check the water pressure. Her eyes shone in a way I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. Julian, on the other hand, stalked through the apartment with his hands in his pockets, examining everything with an expression of profound disgust. He touched things as if they were dirty. He looked around as if the place were a hovel, not a decent apartment. "It's small," he finally said, the first thing he'd uttered since the airport. "It has 2 generous bedrooms, a full bath with a large shower, a spacious living room with a balcony, and a large kitchen," I replied, controlling my irritation. "For a young couple starting out, it's more than enough. It's perfect. My apartment in the city is twice this size. It has 2 parking spots, a pool, a sauna, a gym. This is her home, not a rental you can leave when you get tired of it," I retorted. "It's an asset and investment security." He looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes, a hatred that scared me with its intensity. "It's not her home, it's Clara's. You made sure of that, didn't you? You guaranteed I wouldn't have any right to anything." "Exactly," I replied, without looking away. "Exactly that." The tension in the air was so thick you could feel it. Clara stood between us, clearly uncomfortable. "Mom, Julian, please. I don't want to fight. I'm tired." I decided it was time for me to leave. They needed to talk alone. But before I left, I placed an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was $500 in cash and a list of furniture stores with good prices. "To get you started," I explained. "It's not much, but it's enough for the essentials." Clara hugged me at the door. "Thank you for everything, Mom. For everything, really." She was crying again. "I still can't believe this is real, that I have a place that's just mine. Believe it, my daughter, and never let anyone take it from you, for anything in this world." In the taxi on the way home, I thought about all that was yet to come. The honeymoon had been a disaster. The marriage was starting on the wrong foot, but at least Clara had the apartment. She had a solid foundation. She had somewhere to run if she needed to, and I was sure she was going to need it. The following days were strange and tense. Clara rarely called me, and when she did, her voice sounded muffled, distant, as if she were speaking underwater. "How are things?" I would always ask, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "Have you bought any furniture?" "Some." Julian insists everything has to be expensive designer brands. He says he can't live with common furniture that people will judge, but we don't have money for designer furniture. And you? What do you think? I think we should buy what fits our budget. But he doesn't listen to me. He says I don't understand style, that I come from a simple family and don't know what quality is. Each word was a stab to my heart. "Clara, this is your apartment. You have the right to decide what goes into it." "I know, Mom, but it's harder in practice than it sounds." One Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after they returned from the honeymoon, I decided to visit unannounced. I needed to see with my own eyes how my daughter was really doing. I brought a large pot of chicken and dumplings I'd made the day before, her favorite dish since she was a child. I also brought fresh rolls and a carrot cake with cream cheese frosting. I rang the bell several times before Clara opened it. When she opened the door, I was shocked by what I saw. She was unrecognizable. Her hair was tied in a messy ponytail, with strands sticking out everywhere. She was wearing an old, oversized sweatshirt, probably Julian's, and stained pajama pants. But what alarmed me most were her eyes. They were red, swollen, with circles even deeper than at the airport. "Honey, what happened? Are you sick?" "Nothing, Mom, I'm just tired." She didn't even try to make the lie sound convincing. "Don't lie to me. I'm your mother. I've known when you're lying since you were 3 years old." She glanced back into the apartment, checking if she was alone, and then lowered her voice to a whisper. "Julian's not here. He went to his parents' house last night and hasn't come back yet. Why? What happened?" My heart was racing. We fought again, about the apartment, about money, about everything. He said he can't stand living here anymore, that this place is too small, that he feels suffocated. He said he's staying at his parents' until I come to my senses and agree to sell. "And you? Are you going to agree?" She didn't answer. She just started crying right there in the doorway. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and held her tight. "You are not selling this apartment. Do you hear me? For anything in this world." We went inside. The apartment had some furniture now, a gray sofa in the living room that looked uncomfortable and expensive, a cold, personality-less glass dining table, a huge television on the wall. It was all so impersonal, lifeless, soulless. It looked like a furniture store showroom, not a home. "Where are your things?" I asked, looking around. "Your books you always loved? The plants that filled the house when you lived with me? Those colorful embroidered pillows your grandmother made? The family photos?" Julian said they don't match the apartment's style. He wants a modern, minimalist look. He said my things are too tacky. She said the word with such pain it broke my heart. "Tacky? Your things are tacky." I felt the rage rising. "Clara, listen to me. This is your apartment, yours. It's in your name. If you want to fill it with plants, pillows, photos, dogs, whatever, you can. No one can stop you. No one. But we live together, Mom. I have to consider what he wants too. Considering doesn't mean completely ignoring your own desires and personality. Considering means reaching a compromise, a middle ground. It means sometimes things are your way, sometimes his. Not always his way while you disappear." We heated the food in the kitchen. The kitchen, at least, had some utensils and looked more lived in. There were pots hanging, spices organized, a container with wooden spoons. "At least he lets me do what I want in here," Clara said with a sad, ironic smile. "He says the kitchen is woman's territory, that he doesn't care how I organize it because he never even comes in here. How generous of him." I couldn't help the heavy sarcasm. We ate together at the cold, uncomfortable dining table. The chicken and dumplings were good, warm, seasoned, just the way she liked, but Clara barely ate. She pushed the food around her plate, taking a few bites out of politeness, but I could see she had no appetite. "I miss you, Mom," she said suddenly, her voice choked. "I miss living with you. I miss our late-night talks in the kitchen. I miss you brushing my hair before bed like you did when I was a little girl. I miss feeling safe." I held her hand across the table. "I miss you too, every single day, my love. The house feels so empty without you. But this is your life now, your marriage. You have to make it work. You have to try. And what if it doesn't work?" The question came out in a desperate whisper. What if I made a terrible mistake? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and terrifying. Then you have options. This apartment, your degree in business, your skills, your job. You are not trapped. You are not dependent on his goodwill for a place to sleep. She nodded slowly, but I could see in her eyes that she didn't fully believe it. Not yet. Julian arrived around 7 in the evening. He walked through the door with that arrogant attitude that was becoming his trademark. When he saw me, his expression soured even more. "Eleanor," he greeted me without a smile, my name sounding like a curse on his lips. "I didn't know you were coming. No one told me we were having visitors. I brought you some food. Real food. Made with love. I already ate at my parents' house. Real food. Prepared by a professional chef who knows how to make sophisticated dishes. Not this kind of simple, poor people's food." The implication was as clear as day and as cruel as a whip. My home cooking wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough. Clara and everything that came from her wasn't good enough. I stood up and began to clear the plates calmly, controlling my every movement so as not to do anything rash. "Well, I'll let you two rest. I'll let you talk." Clara walked me to the door. When Julian couldn't hear us because he'd gone to the bedroom, I whispered quickly, "If you need me, call me. Any time of day or night. It doesn't matter what time. Do you hear me?" "Okay, Mom, I love you. I love you too, more than anything in this world." In the taxi on the way home, I cried. I cried because my daughter was suffering and I couldn't do anything about it. Nothing more than having given her that apartment. I cried because I saw my little girl disappearing bit by bit, being erased by a man who should have loved her, but only wanted to control her. I cried because I knew things were going to get much worse before they got better. The weeks turned into months of growing silence. Clara still called me, but less and less frequently. When we did talk, it was always the same litany. "Everything's fine, Mom. Don't worry about me." But I was worried all the time. The worry consumed me. It stole my sleep. It took away my appetite. One Saturday morning, 4 months after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Arthur, Julian's father. I was surprised. He had never called me before. "Eleanor, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Tell me, did something happen?" My heart leaped. Not over the phone. "Can we meet today? It's about Julian and Clara." We agreed to meet at a small cafe in a neutral neighborhood, far from where any of the family might see us. I arrived first, nervous, ordering a coffee that went cold on the table. Arthur arrived 15 minutes later. He looked like he had aged 10 years since the wedding. Thinner, more stooped, with more gray hair. "Thank you for coming," he said, sitting down heavily. I didn't know who else to talk to. I don't know what to do. "What happened?" He sighed deeply, a sigh that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. "I'm worried about my son, about what he's becoming, or rather, about what he always was, and I pretended not to see. He told me that Julian had come to his parents' house the night before, furious, saying that Clara was impossible to deal with, that she didn't respect him, that she was stubborn, that she didn't know how to be a good wife, that everything would be different if she would just sell that apartment and deposit the money into a joint account. My wife, of course, agreed with everything," Arthur continued bitterly. "She's been feeding his anger, saying that Clara is rebellious, that you spoiled her, that the two of you are conspiring against him. It's absurd, but she believes it. And you, what do you think?" He looked at me with tired, defeated eyes. I think my son has become exactly what my wife wanted him to be. A man who believes the world revolves around him, that women exist to serve him, that marriage is about control, not partnership. He also told me about his older daughter, Gabriella, whom I had only seen in passing at the wedding. She had been in an unhappy marriage for 15 years. Her husband controlled her, checked her calls, limited her money, and isolated her from the family. And I did nothing, he admitted, with tears in his eyes. I stayed silent. I let my wife say it was normal, that that's how marriage is. I was a coward. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want Clara to suffer the same fate. Because I saw what you did at the wedding, the apartment you gave her, and I realized you are a much braver mother than I ever was as a father. So what can I do? Keep an eye on her. Don't let Julian convince her to sell that apartment, because if he succeeds, if he manages to take away the one thing that's solely hers, he will have total control, and then there will be no way out. We left that cafe with a tacit agreement. He would try to talk to his son, though he doubted it would do any good. I would continue to support Clara, giving her the strength to resist. 2 days later, on a Monday night, Clara called me. It was past 11. I was almost asleep. "Mom, can you come here? Please. What happened? Are you okay? Just come. Please, I need you." Her voice was strange, not exactly panicked, but something was wrong. I took a taxi immediately. I didn't even change clothes. I went in my pajamas with a coat over them. When I got to the apartment, the door was unlocked. I went in, calling her name. "Clara, where are you?" I found her sitting on the living room floor, leaning against the sofa, hugging her knees. She was trembling. "Honey," I ran to her and hugged her. "What happened?" "He locked me in, Mom. Julian locked me in the bedroom for 3 hours because I told him I wouldn't sell the apartment. My blood ran completely cold. I felt as if someone had thrown ice water in my veins." "What? What do you mean he locked you in?" She told me between sobs. They had argued again about the apartment. Julian wanted to sell, to buy something bigger in both their names. Clara refused. The argument heated up. He pushed her into the bedroom. Not hard, but he pushed her, and he locked the door from the outside. She banged on it, screamed. He didn't open it. Only after 3 hours, when he had calmed down, did he unlock it. "That's false imprisonment," I told her, trying to keep my voice calm but failing. "You know that, right? It's a crime. You can press charges." "I know, but I can't do that. The scandal. His family. What will people think?" "Clara, he locked you in a room. That is not normal. That is not love." "I know, Mom. That's why I called you. Because I need to get out of here. I need to think, away from him." I helped her pack a bag, clothes, toiletries, important documents, and especially the apartment papers, which were still stored in a drawer. As we were almost finished packing, we heard a key in the lock. Julian. He had gone for a walk to cool off and was coming back. He walked in and saw us with the suitcase. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to stay at my mother's for a few days," Clara answered, her voice surprisingly firm. "You're not going anywhere. You're my wife. Your place is here with me." "A wife is not property," I retorted, instinctively stepping between him and her. "And you crossed an unacceptable line today when you locked her in a room. That was nothing. I just needed her to calm down, to stop being so stubborn. You deprived her of her freedom. That has a name. It's called a crime." He took a step forward menacingly. For the first time, I was physically afraid of him, afraid of what he might do. "Get out of my house. This isn't your house. It's Clara's, and she's leaving with me now." I took Clara's hand and we started walking towards the door. Julian stood there in the middle of the living room, his fists clenched, his breathing heavy. "Ah, you're going to regret this. Both of you. My family has lawyers, the best lawyers. We'll sue you. I'll take this apartment from her. I'll prove it was given in bad faith to destroy our marriage." "Good luck with that," I replied without looking back. Everything was done legally. Everything is documented. And now we have one more thing documented. You locking your wife in a room against her will. We left. We ran down the stairs as if fleeing a fire. We only breathed a sigh of relief when we were inside the taxi, driving away from the building. Clara stayed at my house for a whole week. During that time, we found a lawyer specializing in family law and domestic violence cases. Dr. Monica was a woman in her 40s, with short hair and a direct, firm gaze that immediately inspired confidence. We told her everything, from the wedding to the maid's uniform, from the apartment I gave as a gift, from the constant arguments, and finally about the day he locked her in. She took meticulous notes without interrupting us once. When we finished, she looked up and looked directly at Clara. "You have a very clear case. Psychological violence, false imprisonment, coercive control. We can file for divorce and a restraining order to keep him away from you." "A restraining order?" Clara seemed frightened by the seriousness of it. "Isn't that an exaggeration? It's not an exaggeration when he has already shown he can lock you up against your will. Today it was a room. Tomorrow it could be worse, much worse. We can't take that risk. But he's my husband. We only got married 4 months ago. And in 4 months, he's already isolated you from your friends, constantly criticized you, tried to force you to sell your only property, and locked you in a room," the lawyer said gently but firmly. "Clara, this is not going to get better. Men like him don't change. They only escalate." We left the office with a stack of documents: a divorce petition, a request for a temporary restraining order, a petition for alimony in case Clara was pregnant. It was all very serious, very real, very frightening. Clara was as pale as a sheet. "I don't know if I can do this, Mom. It's all so final, so permanent. You can do it, and you will, because you deserve more than this. You deserve someone who truly loves you, not someone who wants to control you." But I knew the decision had to be hers. I couldn't force her. I couldn't decide for her. I could only be by her side, supporting her, hoping she would find the strength. That night, lying in my bed like when she was little and had nightmares, Clara finally spoke. "I'm going to sign the papers tomorrow. I'm going to file for divorce. Are you sure?" "No, but it's the right thing to do. For me, for my future, for the woman I want to be." And there, in that moment, I knew that my daughter had finally found her strength. That the apartment I had given her wasn't just a place to live. It was the symbol of her freedom. It was the physical proof that she would always have options. And now, finally, she was ready to use them. The next day, we signed all the papers at the lawyer's office. Clara's hand trembled as she signed her name on the divorce petition, but she signed. Every signature was an act of courage. Every turned page was a step toward freedom. The lawyer filed everything at the courthouse that same afternoon. Julian would be served in 3 days. "Prepare yourselves," Dr. Monica warned. "When he gets served, he will react. And it probably won't be a good reaction. Men like him hate losing control." She was right. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Julian. I didn't even answer. He called 5, 10, 15 times. Then the texts started. "Tell Clara to call me immediately. She's making the biggest mistake of her life. My family will destroy both of you in court." Clara was also getting calls and messages, hundreds of them. Some from Julian, others from Beatrice, others from mutual friends. "Please come home. Don't do this to him." Think about the family. Think about what God will think, as if God approved of locking someone in a room. 3 days after he was served, Julian showed up at my building. The doorman called me. "Mrs. Vance, there's a young man here. Says he's your son-in-law. Says he needs to speak with you urgently. Please don't let him up. If he insists, call the police." He insisted. He stood there screaming into the intercom. The doorman had to call security to remove him. That night, Clara cried. "Mom, am I doing the right thing? He seems so desperate, so sorry. He's desperate to lose control, not to lose you. If he truly loved you, he would never have treated you this way." A week later, we received a formal proposal from the DeWitt family through their lawyers. If Clara dropped the divorce and went back to Julian, Arthur would buy them a larger apartment, in her name only. A 3-bedroom in a prime location. A bribe disguised as a gift. "They're trying to buy you," I explained, "trying to bribe you to come back. That tells you everything about the kind of family they are." Clara read the proposal several times. For a moment, I thought she might accept, but then she tore the paper in half. "I don't want anything from them. I have my apartment. The apartment you gave me because you love me, not because you want to control me." In the following months, the divorce proceedings moved slowly. The DeWitt family hired the best lawyers money could buy. They tried to paint Clara as an unstable wife, as someone who had been manipulated by her mother, as a person who abandoned the marriage for no reason. But we had evidence, threatening text messages, witnesses to the day he locked her in. The doorman's testimony about the day Julian showed up screaming. And we had Arthur's testimony. He testified on Clara's behalf against his own son. It was one of the bravest things I've ever seen anyone do. "My son is in the wrong," he said in his formal deposition before the judge. "He was raised to be spoiled and selfish. My wife enabled him, and I didn't have the courage to correct it. Clara deserves better. She and any future children they might have." Beatrice nearly fainted when she heard her husband say that. She stormed out of the hearing room, screaming, making a scene. But it didn't matter. The truth was finally being told. The divorce was granted a year and a half later. Clara kept the apartment as if there were any doubt. Julian would have had to pay alimony if they'd had children, but since they didn't, he paid nothing. He did, however, have to pay the court costs because he was found at fault for the dissolution of the marriage. The day the final judgment came down, Clara and I went to the apartment. Her apartment. It was exactly as we had left it, but now it felt different. It felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. "It's mine," she said, walking through the rooms. "Really mine. Just mine. Forever. Forever," I repeated. In the following months, Clara began to transform the apartment. She bought colorful pillows. She filled it with plants. She put up family photos on the walls. She painted one wall of the living room a vibrant yellow. She replaced the cold, expensive sofa with a more comfortable and inviting one. She transformed that impersonal space into a real home, her home. She also started seeing her friends again. She picked up hobbies she had abandoned. She started taking dance classes. She met other women who had been through difficult divorces. They formed a support group. They met every week to talk, cry, laugh, and strengthen each other. And professionally, she flourished. She got a promotion at work, then another. Within 3 years, she was a project manager, earning more than Julian had ever earned. "You know the best part," she told me one day? "It's realizing that I always had this strength inside me. I just needed a safe place to find it, and that place was the apartment you gave me." 5 years after the divorce, Clara met someone. Mark, an architect, divorced father of a 6-year-old boy. They met in a park where Clara had started taking Sunday walks. I was skeptical at first, of course. After Julian, I was wary of any man who got close to my daughter. "Mom, he's different," Clara assured me. "He respects me. He listens to me. He doesn't try to change me or control me." When he found out about the apartment, you know what he said? "What?" He said he was glad I had something that was just mine. He said he thinks it's healthy, that he also has his own place and plans to keep it that way, even if we get married one day. I watched their relationship for months with a hawk's eye, looking for signs, for red flags. But Mark was exactly as Clara described him, kind without being smothering, supportive without being controlling, present without being possessive. He respected her boundaries, included her in decisions, and never tried to rush anything. 2 years after they started dating, they got married. But this time, it was completely different. The ceremony was small and intimate in the park where they met. Only close family and dear friends. There were no humiliating gifts. There was no toxic mother-in-law. There was only love, respect, and genuine celebration. At the dinner after the ceremony, I made an emotional toast to my daughter Clara, the strongest woman I know, who walked through fire and came out brighter on the other side, who learned that her strength doesn't come from having a man by her side, but from knowing who she is, with or without one, who built a home that is hers, a life that is hers, an identity that is hers. I am infinitely proud of the woman you've become, Clara cried, and she hugged me tight. None of this would be possible without you, Mom. Without that apartment. That apartment saved me. It literally saved me. Mark hugged me too. Thank you for loving your daughter enough to protect her. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her. Today, 8 years after that disastrous marriage to Julian, Clara is happier than ever. She and Mark each live in their own apartment, but they spend half their time at each other's places. They have a healthy, balanced relationship where they both maintain their independence, but choose to be together. The apartment I gave her is still her refuge, her safe harbor, the place she goes when she needs solitude, reflection, to reconnect with herself, and she has never, ever considered selling it. This apartment is worth more than any money, she always says. It's the physical reminder that I always have options, that I'm never trapped. As for Julian, I heard he got married again, twice in fact, and both marriages lasted less than 2 years each. Each woman eventually realized who he really was and left. His last ex-wife sought me out through mutual friends. She wanted to know if I could help her with my lawyer's name. I gave her all the information, and I cheered for her, just as I cheered for my daughter. Beatrice still blames everyone but her son. She spreads to anyone who will listen that Clara was the one who destroyed the marriage, that I manipulated everything, that we were the villains of the story. But fewer people listen to her now. Even her closest friends have noticed the pattern. Arthur passed away 2 years ago from cancer. Before he died, he asked to see Clara one last time. She went bringing flowers. "Thank you," were practically his last words. "Thank you for having the courage to leave, for being the example my own daughter needed to see, for being stronger than I ever was." Clara cried a lot at his funeral. Not for Julian, who was there in a black suit, faking sadness, but for his father, for the good man who was trapped in an unhappy marriage out of cowardice, who raised troubled children for fear of confronting his wife, but who, in the end, found the courage to do the right thing. Today, as I write this story, I am 68 years old. My hair is completely white now. I have wrinkles that weren't there 8 years ago. But when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who made a difference, a woman who changed the course of her daughter's life, and that is priceless. Clara is 35 now. She's a successful executive. She has a robust savings account, investments, and she still has that apartment, always that apartment, which represents so much more than square feet of concrete. It represents freedom. It represents options. It represents a mother's unconditional love. Sometimes I think about that night at the reception hall, about the maid's uniform Beatrice gave, about Julian's face when he said, "Perfect, she's going to need this." And then I think about his face when Clara read the deed to the apartment, when he realized he had just lost all the control he thought he would have. And I have no regrets. Not for a second. Every penny saved, every extra shift worked, every piece of jewelry sold, every sacrifice was worth it. Because my daughter is free. Because my daughter is the master of her own life. Because my daughter learned she is worth more than any maid's uniform. Recently, Clara told me she's thinking of buying a second apartment as an investment, and she wants to put it in the name of a niece or a cousin who might need it one day. "I want to do for another woman what you did for me," she explained. I want to give someone the same chance you gave me." I cried when I heard that. I cried because I realized I hadn't just saved my daughter. I'd started a legacy of mothers protecting their daughters, of women giving other women the tools to be free. And that legacy will continue. To all the mothers listening to this story, protect your daughters, not just with words and advice, but with concrete actions. An apartment, a bank account, a professional degree, something that is solely hers, something no one can ever take away. Because the world is still a difficult place for women. There are still many Julians out there, many Beatrices, many families who see women as property. And to all the daughters, you deserve respect. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to have a voice in the decisions that affect your lives. Never let anyone make you feel small. Never accept less than you deserve. Never put on the maid's uniform someone tries to hand you, whether it's literal or figurative. And if you are in a relationship where you feel controlled, minimized, or trapped, leave. I know it's hard. I know it's scary. I know you fear judgment, family, society. But your life and your freedom are worth more than anyone else's opinion. That maid's uniform Beatrice gave still exists. Clara kept it in a box at the back of a closet in the apartment. "Why do you still have it?" I asked her once. "As a reminder," she replied. "Every time I look at it, I remember who I don't want to be. I remember what it felt like to be small. I remember the moment you gave me the deed and everything changed. It's my reminder to never, ever accept being treated like that again." The apartment where it all began is still her sanctuary. She's decorated and redecorated it several times over the years. Now it has plants in every corner, shelves full of books, photos of happy moments on the walls, and a small balcony with comfortable chairs where she drinks her coffee every morning. It's a perfect reflection of who she is. "Even married to Mark, you never wanted to live together?" I asked her once. "We don't need to," she replied. "Our relationship works like this. We have our spaces. We visit each other. We spend time together because we want to, not because we have to. And when I need solitude, I come to my apartment, my refuge, my sacred place." Mark understands completely. In fact, he has the same arrangement, his own space that he keeps separate. "It's healthier this way," he once explained to me. "We're two whole people who choose to be together, not two desperate halves looking for completion. This is mature love, healthy love, a world away from what Julian offered, which was control disguised as love, possessiveness painted as care, a prison sold as protection." My sister Susan, who inspired all of this with her own tragic story, finally rebuilt her life too. At 53, she went back to work, saved money, and last year she bought her own small apartment. "I will never depend on anyone again," she told me the day she signed the deed. And so the cycle continues. Women learning, women growing stronger, women freeing themselves, one at a time, one apartment at a time, one story at a time. If this story touched your heart in any way, know that you are not alone. There are thousands, millions of women going through the same thing, facing controlling husbands, toxic in-laws, families who want to diminish them, but there is also a way out. There always is. Sometimes it comes in the form of an apartment, as it did for Clara. Sometimes in the form of a job that gives you financial independence. Sometimes just in the form of the courage to take the first step. But it exists. The way out exists. You just have to believe you deserve to find it. I am 68 now. My knees ache when it rains. My hands have arthritis. My eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. But when I look at my daughter, when I see the strong, independent woman she has become, I know I lived well. I know I made a difference. I know my life had purpose. And when Clara looks at me, I see gratitude in her eyes. I see love. I see respect. But most of all, I see freedom. And there is no greater gift a mother can give her daughter than the freedom to be who she truly is. So that's it. This is my full story, the The story of how a maid's uniform and an apartment changed everything. The story of how a mother's love can be both a shield and a sword. The story of how a 60-year-old woman who worked double shifts, sold her jewelry and saved every penny, saved her daughter from a future of submission and control. If you're listening to this, I hope this story plants a seed of courage if you're a woman in a bad relationship, a seed of action if you're a mother with a daughter about to get married, a seed of awareness if you're a man who needs to rethink how he treats the women in his life. The world is changing. Slowly, but it is. Every story like ours contributes a little. Every woman who leaves an abusive relationship inspires another. Every mother who protects a daughter teaches other mothers. Every man who truly respects his partner shows other men how it should be done. And maybe, just maybe, a day will come when stories like mine are no longer necessary. A day when no mother-in-law gives a maid's uniform as a wedding gift. A day when no daughter needs a secret apartment to feel safe. A day when all women are treated as equals, not as property. If you enjoyed this story, please click subscribe and tell me in the comments which part impressed you the most. Oh, and don't forget to become a member to access exclusive videos I don't post here. See you there.